are in the QBO gym. And the QBO gym is a place where we have numerous hands-on exercises that simulate real-life scenarios that you may encounter as a bookkeeper. Each month covers a variety of new topics and scenarios. And to make it a little bit easier for you, we break it down into 4 different sections. So if you are looking to work on your bookkeeping skills, this is the place for you. And if you want to do a deep dive and do a couple of these on your own, be sure to join our free 5-day bookkeeping challenge. All you have to do is just click on the link in the description. But let's get into today's exercise, which is coming from our April Year 1 cardio section, where we really focus on those basic skills. At the top here is an animated video to give you a synopsis of what you, the bookkeeper, will be doing for your client Craig this month. Below that is an interactive pre-assessment quiz that relates to the video up above. Below that are all of the exercises in this section. And at the bottom, here is an optional area where after you have done all of the exercises in this section, you will unlock some marketing sample posts that you can use on your LinkedIn to share with everybody what you have learned so far. So let's dive into today's exercise, which is going to be practicing writing off an unpaid invoice. If you click on the link right here, the exercise will show up for you. I have it over here on the right side of my screen, so let's read through our scenario. Craig spoke to one of his customers, Kathy Cupless, and found out that she is going out of business and will not be able to pay her bill. Because Craig is an accrual-based business, he has already reported the accounts receivable as income, so he can't just delete or void the invoice. Besides, his accountant will want to see the exact history of what happened. So instead, Craig will need to write off the invoice in QBO and record it as an expense. So how can we help him? Let's find out. You will need to be in the sample company to do this exercise. Now, if you're not sure how to get into the sample company or get your own free QBOA account, be sure to click on the link in the description. I have the sample company here on the left side of my screen. Once you sign in, this is what it will look like. So let's go ahead and get started with the exercise. So you're pretty sure that Craig is referring to Cookies by Kathy when he talks about Kathy Cupless, but let's confirm that's correct. There's 2 different ways that you can find this out, so let's dive right in. From the left navigation bar, we're going to hover over customers and leads and then select customers. So on the left side of the screen is this navigation bar. Here is customer and leads. Hover over that and then select customers. And once the customer list shows up, we want to look for Cookies by Kathy. So scroll down until you find her name and then go ahead and click on it. And you will see her customer profile appear for you. Now, if you get any pop-ups, just go ahead and click out of them. These are just informational pop-ups from QBO. I'm also going to collapse this bar here on the left side just so you can see my screen a little bit easier. Now, from this transaction list, you can see that there is only one invoice. This is the invoice that she is not going to be paying off, that we are going to be writing off. Go ahead and click on it. And then you may need to click on this down arrow to expand it. But when you do, in the customer details section, you can see the name Kathy Cupless in the billing address, which is right there. So you know that this is the customer that Craig is referring to. Let's go ahead and exit out of these details by clicking on the X on the top right corner of the screen. And as I mentioned before, there are 2 ways that you can go about doing this. So that was one way. Let's look at the other way. To find the customer information in Cookies by Kathy's profile, we're going to click Edit. That is this button right here. Go ahead and click on it. And here you can see the customer's first name and last name, which is Kathy Cupless. And so we know once again that this is the correct customer that Craig is referring to. So go ahead and click on the X to exit out of this. And now that we have confirmed the customer account Craig was referring to, it's time to write off the invoice. Now, in addition to writing it off, we're going to see how writing it off is reflected in the reports. So first, let's take a look at Craig's balance sheet so that you can see how the current invoice is reflected there. On the left navigation bar, we're going to click on reports to get to that report center. It's right under customers and leads, so go ahead and click on that. And then we're going to click on balance sheet to run that. If you happen to get any pop-ups like this, just go ahead and click out of them. QBO is just asking for some feedback. So go ahead and click on balance sheet once you find it. Now to make sure that we are including, there we go, we are including all of the transactions in Craig's QBO, we're going to change the report period field to all dates. So go back up to the top of this screen. Here is that report period field. Click on the down arrow and then select all dates. And then we're going to go ahead and run that report once again. And now you will see all of the transactions are included in this balance sheet. Now, because the invoice has not yet been paid, and because Craig is using accrual accounting, the $75 invoice is already considered income. So let's see how this shows up. We're going to click on the accounts receivable AR total. So we have all of the assets that are listed first on the balance sheet. Here is accounts receivable AR. Go ahead and click on the total number right there, so that we can get a full transaction report for every transaction that is in the accounts receivable account. Now, if we scroll down just a tiny bit, it's maybe about 10 down or so. Here is the one for Cookies by Kathy. If I scroll over, you can see that that $75 is the outstanding balance for her invoice, and that is what is on here on the report. Now, before we can write off this invoice, we actually need to set up an account that will track the bad debt expense. So we need to get to the chart of accounts page. We're going to click on accountant tools and then select chart of accounts. That is at the top of the screen right here. Go ahead and click on that. And then under quick links, select chart of accounts. Now let's go ahead and create that bad debts expense. We're going to click on the new button, which is right here. And then in the account name field, we are going to type bad debts. So click into it and type bad debts. In the account type field, this is going to be an expense, so we want to select expenses. Click that down arrow, scroll towards the bottom here, and you will see expenses. Go ahead and select that. And then in the detail type field, we want to select bad debts. That's the type of expense that it is. So click on that down arrow, select bad debts. And now we can go ahead and click on save, which is the green button on the bottom right corner. And now that account has been saved. So now that we have created that expense account, we can go ahead and use the write-off tool to write off the outstanding invoice for Kathy. So once again, we are going to click on Accountant Tools, and then this time click on Write Off Invoices. So Accountant Tools again is at the top of the screen, and then under Tools, you will see Write Off Invoices. Go ahead and select that. In the aging field, let's make sure that it's included in our search. So we are going to select accounting period. Click that down arrow and then select accounting period. And now we want to narrow down our invoice list that is going to show up for us. So in order to show just the invoice, to have a small search or a result that comes up after we do a search, we are going to select or put in the balance less than field 76 because the invoice is for 75. And if you put 75 in there, it won't show up on the resulting list because it is looking for something that is under. So we need to type 76 in there. So go ahead and click into that box, type 76, and then click on Find Invoices. And as you can see from this resulting list, there's only a couple that are under $76 here, including the one for Cookies by Kathy. So let's go ahead and click on the checkbox next to her invoice that is right here. And then we're going to click on the green write off button. You will get this pop-up that appears for you. It's asking which account it needs to be written off to. And so in this, we need to select bad debts. So you can go ahead and click into it. You can start typing or you can scroll down to find it. Once you do, go ahead and select it. And then we're going to go ahead and click on the green apply button. So go ahead and do that. And now that invoice has been written off. It has disappeared from this list, and so it has been saved as a write-off. Now let's go back and check on our reports and see how this has changed things. So on the left navigation bar, we're going to once again click on reports. So go ahead and click on that to get to that report center. And then we're going to run the balance sheet once again. Click on balance sheet. And again, let's make sure we're including all transactions here. So we're going to, in the report period field, select all dates. And then we're going to run that report once again. Go ahead and click on that run report button. And now everything has been run for us, and the accounts receivable total has now been reduced by $75. But let's take a little bit closer look at the details in this account. So go ahead and click on the total on the accounts receivable line. And we will this time notice that the Cookies by Kathy invoice amount has been reduced to 0. So here's Cookies by Kathy. If I scroll over here, it is this line right here. And as you can see, the amount is showing as 0. But let's see how this changed on the invoice itself. Let's go ahead and click on invoice 1016. So that is right here. Go ahead and click on it once you find it. And the invoice that we just wrote off is going to appear for us. Now, by writing off the invoice, a discount has been applied to it. So if I scroll to the bottom here, you will see that this discount value is $75, which is the amount of the original invoice, and it's showing as removing that $75. So the balance due is showing as 0. Let's go ahead and close out of this invoice. But just by clicking on the X on the top right corner of the screen. And finally, let's take a look at the profit and loss and see how this has been affected as well. On that left navigation bar, we're going to click on reports. So click on that once again to get back to the main reporting center. And then we're going to click on profit and loss, which is right here. Select that. And once again, let's make sure that we have all transactions captured here. So in the report period field, click on the down arrow and select all dates. And then we're going to once again run that report. Click on that button right there. Now, if we scroll down to the expenses section, we will notice that there is now a line for the bad debts with a total of $75. So all income accounts are listed first, and then the expense accounts. And you see this one right here that says bad debts. That shows $75, which is the value of Kathy's invoice. And that's how you write it off. Now, just know that the write-off tool does not adjust sales tax and should therefore not be used if the original invoice included a sales tax item. For Kathy's case, it was a weekly gardening service, if you saw from that invoice. And so, that is a service that is not taxable, and so that's why it does not affect this particular one. But if there is an invoice that needs to be written off that does have a sales tax item, you have to go about it a different way. You should also not use this write-off tool should also not be used if the transaction is in a closed period. Instead, you would want to use a credit memo in these cases. Now, this is covered in our advanced level ProAdvisor certification course, which you can learn more about here by clicking on this link. I'll also include it in the description as well. But that is how you would write off an invoice. Now, if you like this exercise and you'd like to do more like it, be sure to join our free 5-day bookkeeping challenge. All you have to do is just click on the link in the description. We move through the cardio section with our next exercise where we practice paying the bills. And I will see you in the next video.